Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Preaching to the Choir Ministries. And today, I wanted to... Okay, that's what I was trying to go for in the beginning here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Preaching to the Choir Ministries. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 says that in a latter time, some are going to depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. For 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 3 talks about the falling away that's going to take place before the man of sin is revealed, before the day of the Lord. These things are important to us Christians because we know that the Bible is predicting that a lot of people are going to turn their back on God. And I'm going to give you guys a pretty good reason on why some of them are going to do it and are doing it today. You know, and that is because of the love of this and the love of money. And what the devil is about to do with the money here on earth and what he is doing now, you know, with his groups that are in charge or whatever, is causing a lot of people to either question their faith, abandon their faith, or to be unprepared for what is coming in the future. I was just on the phone with Brother Veckel before I got started, and I was telling him that, at least I think I was telling him this. I might have been telling somebody else this, but it was like, you know, with what's coming, nobody who's really bought with the blood of Christ is going to really want to be here with the new financial system that is actually coming. It's going to be very difficult for us Christians and very difficult for anybody that likes to do things the traditional way. It's not going to be impossible, but it's going to be very difficult to be able to live a honest godly life with the system that they're going to put in place in the future. And believe me, they want this system. And sadly enough, the people on this planet want the system too. I'm not going to try to sit here and make it sound like the governments are the only ones that want it, and the bankers are the only ones that want it. That's not true. A lot of the citizens in these different countries want this system as well too. So what we're going to do today is we're going to just talk about today about the future of the monetary system here in the United States and across the world. This is not something that is just isolated for the United States. Let me change my background a little bit here. We'll go with this for right now. This is important because I know, at least since I've been saved, since Christmas of since 2000, since 1999, around December 24th, 25th or whatever, that's when I became a Christian. I've been hearing about this one world currency that that these governments are working on, and how they want a one world monetary system so that they can control all currencies. And a lot of people who are involved with prophecy have made videos regarding this particular topic, not videos, movies regarding this topic. And even people in secular Hollywood have done the same thing and talked about the potential a cashless society that we could be living in. Now, some people might be thinking that this is a good thing. You know, it could stop people from getting robbed on the streets. Yeah, right. But anyway, they believe that it'll stop people from getting robbed in the street. It can get cells and things to go across a lot faster, make it more convenient. And there are a lot of arguments that could be made on how it could better the environment and make business move a little bit smoother, you know, with us dealing with the government. But an argument can also be made, and a much stronger argument can be made, that if we go cashless, we're going to lose a lot of the freedoms that we're enjoying today. And we're going to talk about those freedoms. We're going to talk about how the monetary system works, and we're going to talk about what they're trying to do in the future. It ain't going to be G-Man giving his opinions and his views and his all this other stuff and whatnot. You're going to hear it come out of their own mouths themselves about what's actually coming. And again, if you've been watching my channel for longer than 8 years or whatever on here, you know that I had certain people coming on my channel arguing that the dollar, the way we presently have it, is better than having our money be backed by gold and silver. I've had people on this channel argue this and argue that the present system that we have now is better than when we was actually on the gold standard. And a lot of you probably don't know what I'm talking about. So again, we're going to actually take a look at what the banks and what a lot of these leaders are talking about regarding our economic system. But before we do, let me just acknowledge the live chat real quick. I'm going to try to do this video in about an hour. I always say that, and then it ends up going longer than what it is. So a true Christian, how you doing? PJ Blessings, how you doing? And Sammy Thompson, how you doing? You guys are the first ones to leave comments, so you get acknowledged. Welcome to Preaching to the Choir Ministries again. And we're going to get into what these sick people have in store for us in the future. And for those of you who think I'm making this stuff up, you can go read the book of Revelation. At some point in the future, there will be no paper money. Gold and silver will be completely worthless. You'll find it laying out in the street somewhere. It will be completely and utterly worthless. It'll be as common as a rock laying around in the street. The money will be in our right hand. I'm sorry, not in our. Let me change my words here real fast. The people that dwell on the earth, their money will be on their right, will be in their right hand or in their foreheads. And all of their information will be there. We'll get to that in a future video, because believe it or not, I'm not trying to go into the mark and everything in that today. I want to talk about how we're getting closer to that, to show people what I'm talking about. And hopefully you guys can share this video today, because this is important. I don't think we talk about this enough, because we are living, the world that we're presently living in right now is not the world that we are moving towards. The world that we're moving towards is going to be a whole lot worse when it comes to our money. It's going to become a whole lot worse. And they're conditioning us right now. They're conditioning you. And I know what I'm about to say is going to sound goofy. It's going to sound like, stupid or whatever. But just hear me out a minute. They want you to use Google Play cards, debit cards, credit cards, Amazon gift cards in general. They want you to use debit cards. They want you to get direct deposit. They want you to do everything regarding your money without actually using physical cash. And they'll use every excuse in the book to get you to stop using your physical cash. Because why? Because they want to get rid of physical cash. It costs them money to make physical cash. And it actually costs more money than what the paper money is actually valued or whatever. You know what I mean? Let me show you guys some videos of what I'm talking about here. What I'm going to do here first is there's a YouTube channel that I mentioned on here before. And by the way, I'm going to shout them out to Epic Economists. Phenomenal YouTube channel where they talk about everything that's going on in the economy. They talk about how a lot of businesses are going out of business and why. And they talk about what's actually going on in the economy. And you'll be surprised how many of us didn't know these things before a channel like that told us. Right now, they're telling us that the economy is making a comeback and we're actually doing pretty good and prices are starting to go down. Yeah, right. None of that stuff is true. All right. I'm going to show you guys as a bit of an intro of what a cashless society really means to a lot of us. Okay. And what's it's going to mean in the future. And in the future video, we'll talk about the mark of the beast, and we'll talk about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and we'll talk about how a lot of that stuff is going to cause the end of the world. You'll see what I mean. All right. So let me share this first video. And again, this one is done by the Epic. I'm sorry, not the Epic Economist. My bad. That's the last video we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at The Economist. That's the YouTube channel. This video that we're going to be looking at, the channel has over 3 million subscribers. So you might have saw this video. There's a good chance of it. All right. But it's going to explain to you how the monetary system works. I do not mean in any way to try to be a conspiracy person or whatever. What I am saying that I'm doing is I'm talking about my faith. I'm talking about what the Bible predicts. And I'm talking about how it's actually being fulfilled right in front of us. So if you're an atheist and you're watching this, there's no proof for God and Bible prophecies. Pay attention to this video today. You might change your mind. Okay. So let's just get into this here real quick. My internet might not be that good today, guys, because the weather over here stinks. It is freezing. All right. So let me let's put this here. We don't have to worry about commercials because I have YouTube Premium now. Yeah. And let's get into this.
Somewhere in the near future, physical money will become like these, relics of a different age, and will only be found in places like this. In other words, hard cash will disappear. It will become electronic, transferred by things like these. So what's the rush to get rid of cash? And what's the cost? Let's face it, money is cumbersome for consumers and banks.
Need to mint the cash, need to print the bills, need to transport them in armored trucks, store it in secure vaults, you need to sort it at the till as well.
Operating in cash costs countries about 0.5%.
So again, you're going to hear arguments for why a lot of people want a cashless society. And you're going to hear the arguments for it. Okay. And again, this is not something that people are being coerced into believing. This is not something that people are being tricked into believing necessarily per se. But people really want this. People need to understand they want this. All right, let's play this.
Of their GDP every year. But cost isn't the only incentive to move towards a cashless future.
Demand is rising, primarily demand from young generations who are looking for fast, easy-to-use means of payments.
Digital payments aren't just easy, they're neat.
It becomes easier for governments to monitor.
It's easy for them to trick our young people into believing that a cashless society would be better than having a society using paper money, because they know that a lot of the young people out there are really good with technology and they like to buy things online. So it's easier for them to trick them into believing that this would be better for them. And a lot of the young people today would rather just use a card or would rather use some speedy way to go about getting what they want, as opposed to doing things the traditional way.
Tax evasion and fraud, so we will have less of that going on, probably.
Having every single payment automatically recorded is efficient, but there's a downside.
Let's assume, for for example, that a country that used to be democratic, where people were not paying too much attention about safeguarding their privacy, becomes undemocratic, and someone wants to control citizens more closely. They will try to infer from what you buy your...
And that's a really good point, because people got to understand, the less and less we use paper money, the more and more control they're going to have over your purchases. They're going to be able to predict what you're buying online. They're going to know what kind of advertisements to give you. A lot of you I know are using Google right now to watch this video. Some of you are not, but I know a lot of you are. And you'll notice that when you're watching our videos, sometimes that Google will send you a suggestion video ad, and it will be tailor-made to what you was looking at on the internet. Now, just imagine this. Imagine if everything you did, including your shopping, was done online, and that's all you did was shop online. You'll be getting those annoying ads all the time. They might even put your name there and say, look, we got this particular product that you've been looking for the last week. You can buy it right now. Just swipe your card or whatever, or put in your digits or whatever.
Political leanings, potentially. And generally speaking, just monitor what you're doing in ways that they shouldn't be doing.
The ballot boxes are kept locked and sealed.
Living in a democratic country doesn't mean you shouldn't be concerned.
There are also worries that private companies perhaps might use this data in ways that are not safe or that you might not like. And for a number of sectors, knowing what you do with your money is very important.
Electronic money trails can allow governments and private companies to access and harvest personal data. But there's another threat that's worrying banks.
Yep, every little thing you do that in a cashless society, every little tiny thing that you do, the government's going to know. So if you go to the store for someone, I know this is silly, but let's just use it. Let's say I decide to go to the store. Let's see who's watching. Let's see if I decide to go to the store for a True Creation, right? And I go to the store for him and he pays me $5. Well, the government's going to know about it and they're going to want their taxes, right? Let's say I do a job for Millicent and I'm trying to do it on the side to try to make extra money because it's so difficult to live in this expensive world. You know what I mean? The moment that the second she sends me an electronic form of money, they're going to get their taxes and they're going to be charging me for this and charging me for that, and asking me how I got this money, what was it for, and being up all of my business. They can even reject her from giving it to me because they don't know the purpose of it because of some law in some particular state. The amount of control that these people will have if we go cashless is crazy.
Cyber attacks.
It was a high-tech bank robbery.
Imagine going to church and you want to make a donation to the church, a massive one, right? God bless you, and you wanted to give the church like $1,000, or you wanted to give the church like $5,000, and you went to swipe your card in front of the church or whatever, and they rejected it. Oh no, my credit's good. That's not even credit. I got money on here. And you go swipe it again and they reject it. How embarrassing do you think that's going to be? And they'll say, oh, we don't think it's a good idea for you to donate $5,000 to this particular church. Maybe you should take this money and use it in a different way. They can control you if everything is digital that way. And then when the church is thinking they're getting $5,000, and you know, at the end of the year you pay your taxes, they can take the taxes out right then and there. How do you know that the church doesn't want to wait until the end of the year to do it? They can do it right then and there. They can reject the fact that they can reject you actually making that donation. There's a lot of things that these people can do once they have full control over your pockets.
Capital One suffering a massive hack attack involving
100 million Capital One customers' accounts
had their personal information stolen.
In March 2019, Capital One Bank was hacked.
A sole hacker managed to steal away 106 million people's personal details in a matter of days. And that attack was noticed just a few months after. You can see that a lot of companies are not very well protected yet against such threats. Pretty much every day we hear of data breaches, cyber attacks that are serious.
That's also the other danger. There are some people out there that are really good with computers that can hack into your accounts. Okay. I can have $100 in my pocket and the best hacker in the world can be out there, but he can't go into my pocket using a computer. But if everything is on a card and everything is digital, we can be robbed on a regular basis and don't even know it until sometimes it's too late. A lot of problems with this idea of a cashless society, but like I said, not everybody agrees.
It's much harder to prevent an attack than to be on the hacker side, because you only need to succeed once as a hacker once upon a time, you would have two guys coming in. They would tell everyone to be on the floor. They would put the money in a bag and then run away with the money. And you would get insurance against that. You knew what the risk was. Nowadays, with cyber attacks, they can happen anytime. They can take any form, so it's very hard to insure against.
Still, many countries are fast moving towards a cashless society. In Sweden, the number of retail cash transactions per person has fallen by 80% in the past 10 years. The trend is even evident in far more cash-loyal societies. China's digital payments rose from 4% of all payments in 2012 to 34%.
I want you to think about this as a consumer here in the United States. We'll get to Sweden and Europe and these other countries in another video that we're going to look at. But I want you to think about this a minute. When you go shopping, how much of that shopping involves you using cash as opposed to using your debit or your credit card? I want you to think about that a minute. When you pay your rent, are you using cash or are you using your debit and your credit card? When you go food shopping, are you using cash or are you using your debit or credit card? I want you to think about this a minute now, okay? When you deposit your money in the bank, are you using physical cash or some people use their debit cards to deposit money into their accounts? It's kind of weird. When you're giving other people money, how are you doing it? Are you doing it with physical cash or are you doing it with a cashless means? When you go out to eat or when you go to an amusement park, are you doing it with cash or are you doing it in a cashless way? Your answer will determine how much they have conditioned you to stop using physical money and to start using digital money. It's a very important thing that you pay attention to, because the more Americans that start doing this, the faster and faster and faster we're going to head to this cashless society that they're trying to build here in the U.S.
In 2017. The trend is inevitable, but a gradual transition is key.
It's important that we have a sort of control as to how fast this happens, because if that's not the case, some people might be left behind.
Some people may find it harder to grasp how much money they have without the physical representation of it. Not everyone knows how to use internet banking technology. And people living in...
I want you to think about that too. The older generation is not that good with these computers. A lot of them, believe it or not, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them don't know how to use Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. A lot of them aren't really savvy with using those things. Okay. They prefer to go out there the old fashioned way, like the way they've been taught since they've been a kid, to go out there and use their physical money. Right. And a lot of them are not savvy with the computer and everything. So how easy do you think it would be for a young person to come over there to swindle them out of their money? Or because all they got to do is say, young man, can you help me use my Cash App? And then they get their password and they get their username. And then they learn how to take all of the money out of their account. Think about how much easier it would be for these scammers to be able to hack into your computer after they claim that they're fixing it, to get into your account and take all of your money. You know what I mean? That's why I believe a lot of the policies and a lot of the laws in this country are being directed towards the older generation to get rid of them, so it'd be easier for them to for them to do what they're going to do with this cashless society.
Remote areas where internet cover is patchy may find they have to drive for miles for their basic needs. And there's another sector of society that relies heavily on cash.
People living in the street don't carry card terminals with them, so it would be very hard for them, well, first of all, to collect money and to pay for things. They will be among the people who suffer the most from it.
I don't think the globalists care about homeless people living on the street. I don't think they care about them. They're only going to care about getting their agenda and having more control and getting rid of paper money, because they know that if they can control everybody's spending habits, they're pretty much in control of their life.
Going cashless is just the latest evolution of money in the modern economy.
That's what they want you to believe.
It raises a fundamental question. What is the value of money if it doesn't physically exist?
Central banks enact monetary policy by exerting control over the amount of money that is created and that is in circulation. And they can do it because they are the only entities that print and create money. The purpose of it is to control the amount of money that is used by the entire
Sammy
economy.
Thompson, I got to disagree with
society,
you on that one. Sammy Thompson said the church won't be here to deal with this. We won't even be here. Now, I agree with you in the sense that we're talking about this from a Bible prophecy perspective, in the sense that we're talking about the mark of the beast and all that. No, I don't believe the church will be here for that. However, unfortunately, there are several parts of the world where they have already gone cashless and they're already dealing with this. You'll see what I mean as we go on with the video.
Obviously, this becomes much harder because money presumably can be created by other entities. And so central banks are actually starting to realize this, especially after Facebook made the announcement that they were going to launch a digital currency. It shows you the extent to which central banks are already thinking about the future of money.
The move towards cashless societies is well underway, but governments need to ensure that as cash is phased out, the vulnerable in society aren't left behind.
All right, so let me show my face for this one. Okay, so that's the first video we're going to take a look at there. All right, and I want to show this comment that Sammy Thompson made here, because I agree with it, but then you got to understand something here. And like I said, when we go through these videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. Let me get rid of this video here so we don't got to click on that again by accident. Okay, so he says that the church won't have to deal with this. We won't even be here. I hope to God we won't, but unfortunately, in several other countries like Sweden, the cashless society already exists. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you've ever been to Dorney Park or not, Sammy. If you yeah, I agree, Sammy Thompson. He says, oh yeah, we won't be here when the market's implemented. Amen and amen. I don't know how many of you have been to Dorney Park. I don't know about Great Adventure because I haven't been there in a while, but I know the last time I went to Dorney Park, they had a lot of things called reverse ATMs. A reverse ATM is when you take physical cash and you put it into an ATM and it gives you a prepaid debit card. And then that's how you go about making your purchases throughout Dorney Park. And when I first saw it, I was like, this is weird because the whole park did this. You couldn't use money to buy food. When I say money, you couldn't use physical money to buy food, play any of the games, get on the rides. You couldn't buy anything with it. Your physical money was worthless in a sense. In terms of using the services that was at Dorney Park, you had to get that prepaid card. I want you to think about that. The Bible says concerning the mark of the beast that you won't be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast. Think about that a minute. Now, what if a whole country was like that? Well, in Sweden, about 85% of the people in Sweden, no, actually it's more than that. 97% of the people in Sweden had completely gone cashless. They're not even using cash no more. They look down on you. They don't encourage it. And they are just using these reverse debit cards. And they're using cashless means to pay for everything. Okay. Blaine says, that's kind of like the tokens at Chuck E. Cheese or other similar establishments. Exactly. But the point is that you're not using physical money. Now, for the people that are watching this and maybe a little critical of me, I understand that money is a unit of exchange. I take this money here and I would trade it for something like this. You know what I mean? Like cereal or like for water or for like peanut butter or for whatever good or need that I actually have. I get that and I understand it. What people need to understand is that there's a certain amount of freedom that you have when you use your cash to pay for things, as opposed to everybody knowing every little tiny thing that you do with your money, which is what would happen if we went cashless. Okay, let me show another one. This is the video I was supposed to start off with, but this was the first video I was supposed to show, but we're gonna watch it anyway because it's gonna tell us why our money is actually worthless. Okay, and when I talk about this, I'm talking about your dollar bill, your $20 bill, your coins. Believe it or not, your penny is more valuable than the dollar bill that you have because the paper that the dollar bill is actually written on is worthless. At least you get a little bit of copper, with the penny or whatever. And copper is actually worth something. You can actually use it for something worthwhile, and you can trade it for goods or whatever. But the actual paper itself that the money is printed on is absolutely worthless, and is backed on debt. Is backed on the promise that the government will accept that paper money as a means of payment for things. Did you know that if the government 5 minutes from now, I don't care how much money you got, you can have $750,000 in your pocket, you can have $1 million, you can have $1 billion. The moment the government says that paper money is worthless, you're broke, because that money isn't worth anything. It doesn't have any real value. The only value that it has is the fact that it's a Federal Reserve note. That's where the value actually comes from. That quarter you got, that dime, all that, It ain't worth anything. Now, the people out there that's got gold and silver right now, if they said that they wasn't backing a dollar no more, your gold and silver would be worth something, but the paper money would be worth nothing. It's all backed by the promise that the government is going to recognize what you have in your pocket as actually being a unit of exchange. That's important to understand for the next video that we're going to watch, because they're going to go into a little bit more detail with this about the history of money, where money came from, and why we're ultimately going to be phasing it out. All right. So, and I want you to listen to what these experts have to say on this particular topic. All right. So let's go to our next video here, and we're going to take a look at this one here. And for those of you who are Christians, you know why I'm showing you all of this, because we all know what they're setting us up for. That's the mark of the beast. So we'll get into that one in the future video. I just want to make sure that people understand the seriousness of what happens if the dollar disappears, the physical dollar. You need to understand that everybody's going to be in your business, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing.
Dollars.
The dollar.
Dollar.
Few things have a hold over us the way that money does. It can make our dreams a reality.
This is the channel I was talking about, the Epic Economist. I'm sorry, the Epic Economist. Phenomenal channel. Please go over there and subscribe. He will actually let you know all of the Fortune 500 companies and all of the other corporations and everything that are actually facing bankruptcy. This economy is not doing as well as your TV show is, as your news and everything may be telling you. Okay, they're closing down Walmarts, they're closing down Targets, they're closing down McDonald's, they're closing down Chick-fil-A's, they're closing down a lot of companies. A lot of banks are failing right now, and a lot of people don't know because they're being fed baloney on the news every day.
The freedom and security that we desire. For many of us, it's the reason we make that dreaded morning commute, working long hours so we can pay our bills and feed our families. But money also has a much darker side. It can destroy lives, lead people into an addictive spiral of gambling and law-breaking, and it can even drive people to commit even worse. But when we take a step back and think about it, the idea that a simple piece of paper can have so much control over us begins to appear more and more absurd. So exactly how does money work? Who controls it? And what happens when this control is lost? Over the millennia, countless monetary systems have been employed around the globe, allowing economies to grow, populations to thrive, and helping people to live their lives comfortably. Today, money is a vast global commodity, with countries trading trillions of dollars worth of produce to one another. It's a system that plays out on an almost unfathomable scale, but it hasn't always been like this. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, things were much more straightforward. Before money existed, tribes would make trades using primitive exchange systems, such as bartering, a simple but limited process of trading one.
Now, for those of you who don't know what bartering is, that's when you actually trade something for something, right? For example, let's say you have a car, and let's say I have salt. And before you guys laugh, please understand these kind of things has happened throughout history, okay? This is a bit absurd, but just listen to what I'm about to say. If your country is rich in salt or rich in oil, or rich in a supply that another country doesn't have, you can actually take salt, you can take oil, the crude oil, you could take sugar, you could take spice, you could take whatever you got, donkeys, horses, or whatever it is, and you can take those things and you can trade with someone else for what they have. That's what that's what bartering is. When you barter, money, physical money is not actually used. You can actually take this Himalayan pink salt, and I can trade this for this box of cereal because you have it and I don't. And that's how money was used in primitive days. Okay, but he's going to explain all of this.
One thing for another. For example, a tribesman may offer a large supply of grain and another tribesman in return for the equivalent value of livestock. However, this system requires both parties to have a coincidence of wants, meaning one person must want livestock and the other must want grain. As tribes grew into communities and communities into populations, the limitations of this system became more and more apparent.
Let me give you a modern day example of how this works. When you go to your job and you go to work for an employer, You're giving that employer a certain amount of work and labor in exchange for X amount of dollars that he's going to give you either per month or per hour or per every 2 weeks or whatever. You're gonna trade your time for money. You know what I mean? And that's what he's getting at right now. That if the two of you can agree on the value of what you have, and both of you have wants, you two can actually trade. Okay, so let's go into this.
System was needed, and that's where money came in. Early currencies used naturally occurring objects such as seashells and
that's why in the
animal
Bible, a lot
teeth.
of times you'll see that Abraham or Joseph or as a matter of fact, Joseph's a perfect example. Joseph saved all of this food and saved all of this livestock and everything and whatnot, right? And when the economy went, that stuff became the money. You know what I mean? There have been times that Abraham traded things and it was considered money during that particular time. It could have been horses, it could have been donkeys, it could have been whatever it is that he had at that particular time. As a matter of fact, the Bible describes as Abraham as being rich because he had all these servants and he had all these possessions, and those possessions was his money. Okay. So when it's talking about early currencies, it's talking about anything that you can trade as a good. Some people can be broker than broke. If you have something that you can actually sell or something that you can actually trade, then you're not as broke as you might think you are.
As tokens that could later be exchanged for goods. But these soon gave way to the more familiar looking coins that we still use today. At first, these were simple metal coins, but by the time of the Iron Age, these had
Nelson Smith says in the chat, she says, it's not the money that makes people kill and steal for it. It's the love for the money. Amen and amen, sis.
Into gold and silver coins that carried the same value as the material that they were made of. Paper money was first introduced in China during the Song dynasty in the 11th century. This was simply due to a nationwide shortage of the copper which was used to make coins. But over time, the benefits of this government-issued paper money became more and more apparent. It was more practical and easier to produce, and as the centuries passed, more and more countries began to adopt a similar hybrid system of coins and paper money. When trade
is a lot more sophisticated than this too, because if you go to the history of the banks and how banks go about lending money to people and how banks even came to be, you know what I mean? You start learning about things like interest and all of that. It's a lot more sophisticated than what he's putting in this video. But the idea is to make sure that the average person can understand what he's saying regarding the history of paper money or whatever.
drought started to spread globally, economies grew to vast proportions. Money's grip over the world began to tighten, eventually becoming the all-consuming behemoth that we know today. As we entered the modern age, the standardized monetary system came to be known as the gold standard.
Now, for those of you who don't know nothing about the gold standard, you might be too young, I don't know. But our dollars at one point was backed by gold. Our dollars today is not backed by gold no more. As a matter of fact, our dollars used to say gold certificate and silver certificate on the actual dollar bills. If you can actually get your hands on one of them things on a gold certificate, they're pretty valuable today. The silver certificate, the silver dollar, the silver paper dollar or whatever, or the silver certificate or whatever, it goes up and down. But the gold one, I believe, is actually pretty consistent. But yeah, our money used to be backed by gold and it used to be backed by silver. Now our money is backed by thin air and debt.
This system meant that a country's currency was directly linked to its gold reserves. This system was first implemented in England at the beginning of the 18th century, but before long, many other countries began to adopt this method, including the United States in 1879. Countries which adopted the gold standard agreed to set the value of their currency to a specific amount of gold. This fixed exchange rate provided stability to international trade. However, this system would be completely abolished by the 1970s. This was in part to the limitations it imposed on governments. Having a currency that was tied to a commodity meant the government had less power to influence the economy and ultimately its citizens.
1971, when President Nixon took the United States off the gold standard.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold.
So, if a dollar is no longer linked to
In
a
other words, you
commodity
would be
such
able
as
to-
gold, what exactly
You
is
would
it?
be able to take your dollar to the bank and actually exchange it for a dollar's worth of gold. You would be able to take $20 and actually go to the bank and exchange it for gold. Lubis says in the chat that is backed by oil. I got to disagree with that because you can't take your dollar to the bank and have them give you oil back in exchange. That's just not going to happen. But back in the day, what you could do is you could take $5, $20, $100, and you can actually be given a certain amount of gold for that paper certificate that you have. That's not the case no more.
That gives it its value? Well, that power now lies within the hands of the government and an economic institution that we call the Federal Reserve. The Fed was founded by Congress in 1930 to bring stability to the economy. It's now considered the most influential economic institution on the
There's a lot of things I can say about the Federal Reserve, and that's why I'm giggling and I'm laughing. But this is about as federal as what is it? As Federal Express. But anyway, let's continue.
planet. It's controlled by a board of governors who are appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. And it's these people who are responsible for those small, inconspicuous pieces of paper in your wallet, becoming the most sought-after commodity on the planet, cold, hard cash. When money is established in this way by a centralized bank, it's known as fiat money.
They're motivated to get the fiat, so they want to invent something in order to make more fiat.
Fiat money is used today by almost all major global economic powers. It includes the Chinese yen, the British pound, the euro, and of course, the American dollar. The term fiat comes from the Latin word meaning "let it be done," indicating that the value of fiat money is established by government decree. When a government declares its currency to be legal tender, it can then be accepted as a medium of exchange for goods and services within that country. Its value is based on the stability and credibility of the government.
So based on the stability and the credibility of our government, you can actually take the money that's in your wallet or your pocketbook or in your bank account, and you can actually go out and you can purchase things here in the United States. Guess what happens when the government says it's no longer money no more? It doesn't matter how many of them you got in your pocketbook or in your wallet, in your bank account. It becomes absolutely worthless. Now, some people are like, well, why in the world would they actually do something like that? Well, we're going to get to that in this video.
Well as supply and demand within the economy. This is a symbiotic agreement between the government and its people. The people must have faith in the government if the currency is to be accepted. Simply put, the dollars in your pocket have value because the government says that they do. The Federal Reserve.
The dollars in your pocket has value because the government says that money in your pocket has value. But before, your money was valuable because it was based on how much gold you had in the bank. When they got rid of the gold standard, that just wasn't the case no more. Now it's just the word of the government. So the government can literally, Biden can literally do one of those state speeches or whatever. I forget what it's called. Go to show how much I pay attention to the news or whatever. But he can do one of those State of the Union addresses or whatever, and he can be like, you know what, guys, your money is absolutely worthless. Now pens are the new currency. He can do that, and there's nothing you can actually do about it except for riot and get mad and get upset. That's it.
Sends this money to banks and credit unions, which in turn is loaned out to their customers and distributed into the economy. Now, these loans are necessary evils when it comes to growing an economy. We need them to buy houses and cars and other materialistic things. Some people may even take out a loan so they can start their own business, again, contributing to the economy and the gross domestic product, the total market value of the goods and services produced by a country. Think of the Federal Reserve as an all-powerful puppet master looming over the economy. Its job is to closely monitor economic fluctuations and keep them in balance. It does this by regulating money supplies, influencing interest rates, and setting requirements for bank reserves. This helps to control rates of inflation and keep the economy stable. Now, this is all fine in theory, but with unemployment levels rising and the cost of living skyrocketing like never before, many American citizens are finding it more and more difficult to pay back these loans and escape their debts, leaving many of us struggling to make ends meet. By the end of 2022, household debt in the U.S. hit a record high of $16.9 trillion, almost $3 trillion more than it was in 2019. And in February 2022, the U.S. federal government debt reached $30 trillion.
Well, U.S. household debt increased by 2% in the second quarter, topping over $16 trillion.
For the first time in history, meaning that the United States has the highest national debt of any country in the world. It's becoming clear that America
It's
is
not what they're telling us on the news. They're telling us we're the richest country in the world, not that we have the highest debt in the world.
a country plagued by debt. With debt spiraling out of control, businesses closing down, and unemployment levels rising. Could America be on the brink of an economic collapse? What happens when these carefully balanced monetary systems start to falter? We only have to look back to 1920s.
Well, when this system falls, they have to come up with another system. Hence why they're going to actually create a cashless society where things are going to be done totally different. And the government will be in 100% control of what you do with your money. Again, I asked this question earlier that when you go shopping, how many of you have experiences that I have? I'm talking about going to the store to buy a pack of socks, or maybe going to the store to buy a candle, or going to the store to buy some food or whatever, and you're swiping your card, and you got hundreds of dollars in your account or whatever, and you're swiping your card, and they're rejecting the sale. Well, that looks like something you don't normally do, so we can't allow you to buy this food. Then you call the company and you're arguing with them for like an hour over you wanting to go buy the things that you want to buy with the money that you went out there and that you earned. They can literally tell you what you can buy and what you can't buy if everything goes cashless.
Germany and the Weimar Republic to find the answers. The cost of World War I was devastating to the German economy. Sanctions posed by the Treaty of Versailles meant the Weimar government was unable to trade with other countries, creating an impossible situation for the people of Germany. As the price of consumables rose and supplies of money dramatically increased, a perfect storm loomed, and by 1922, Germany was in the grip of hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is an extreme economic condition marked by an exceptionally rapid and uncontrollable increase in prices. It typically results from a massive and unsustainable
I remember that term hyperinflation because according to the scriptures, it's going to take your entire paycheck to buy a loaf of bread. I'm telling you straight up. They keep talking about how they're going to get this policy to lower prices and this policy to lower prices. Let me tell you something. We're going to keep seeing things go up and up and up and up until you got to get on your hands and knees and worship the government in order to eat.
Expansion of the money supply, eroding the value of a country's currency at an alarming rate. Hyperinflation inevitably leads to a breakdown in the normal functioning of the economy, causing widespread economic hardship and social instability. When the price of goods and services in an economy rises rapidly and uncontrollably, the value of that economy's currency falls dramatically and eventually.
I want to show you guys something here, guys. I want to show you something here. This is a guy named Lubis. You guys should all know him by now when he leaves the comments here and whatever on this channel. Lubis, you're seriously uninformed if you believe this. He says, yeah, that won't happen here in the United States. Hey, Lubis, and I mean, I don't know how old you are, but where were you in 2008? I'm just curious. Where were you in 2008 when the whole system almost went and millionaires were killing themselves? And gas prices was ridiculous. It was almost $6 a gallon. Where the heck were you when all of this stuff was happening? Oh, it can happen here. You never heard of the Great Depression before? Oh, yes, it can happen here. It's already have. But the new one that we're going to see coming in the future is going to make the Great Depression look like Sesame Street. Anyway, let's get back to our video here. And people can see what I'm talking about. I might actually do a video on the Great Depression. I think that'd be great because that's when they actually got rid of the gold standard. So let's get back to this here real quick.
Almost worthless. During hyperinflation in Germany, 1 trillion German marks came to be worth the same as a single American dollar. This meant that, theoretically, it would take wheelbarrows piled high with cash just to buy the simplest of necessities like vegetables and bread. What followed was a complete disintegration of law and order as looting and rioting spread throughout the country. Things became so desperate, it said that people began burning money so they could keep warm during the harsh, unforgiving winters. And this isn't an isolated incident. Instances of hyperinflation have also occurred in Hungary after the Second World War, Brazil and Yugoslavia in the 1990s, and most recently.
I remember my teacher telling me, and I've seen it in several documentaries regarding Hitler's rise to power over there in Germany, that hyperinflation was so crazy in Germany that people couldn't carry the amount of German notes that they needed to buy the amount of groceries that they needed every day. It was crazy how much money it cost to buy certain things. And to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, and it's nowhere near as bad, but I'm just giving you an example. A lot of people can only think about things here in the United States because they've never been outside of this country. One of the blessings that God gave me is when I finally got out this country and I got to see the world a little bit. And when I went to Jamaica, even before I went there, I was like, well, how much is a loaf of bread? Over here in America, a loaf of bread might be, I think during the time it was like maybe $1.50, $2 during that particular time. Now a loaf of bread now is like anywhere between $3 and $5 or $6, depending on what kind of bread you get. In Jamaica, in order to buy a loaf of bread over there, you got to have about $350 to $600 to buy a loaf of bread. Let me repeat this: $350 to $600 in order to buy a loaf of bread. Not American currency, Jamaican currency. Do you know what these people pay for rent over there? Some people pay $15,000 a month. $15,000 a month in Jamaican currency in order to pay their rent. Oh, inflation can destroy a country. This has happened over and over and over again. All right. But anyway, let's continue.
In 2007, when economic mismanagement and political instability in
and this
Zimbabwe.
Give you guys an idea about how. Okay, so a lot of you probably wonder why all these people keep coming from these other countries and coming to the United States. Why we got all these people coming from Mexico and Puerto Rico and from different countries over here? I don't think you guys understand the value of $1 US. If you take that $1 US to Jamaica, do you want to know what that $1 is worth in Jamaica? That $1 is worth. If you can go to the exchange right now, I think it's worth about 115 US dollars, 115 to 130 Jamaican dollars. $1 US is worth about 130 Jamaican dollars. You're like, oh, gee, man, and their country must be easy to. No, you got to understand something. When these people get paid at the end of the week, when they go to work, some of them only get $3,000. Some of them only get $4,000 a week. A week. And just to give you an idea what you can buy with that, $4,000 in Jamaica will get you a loaf of bread. That will get you maybe some cheese, some eggs, and a few groceries. That ain't a lot of money in Jamaica. To a Jamaican, that's worth a lot of money, but to us, we'll be depressed over here if that's what we got paid every week. Imagine going to work and only getting paid $50 a week. Think about that in a minute. Inflation ain't no joke. Why do you think they want our American dollar so bad when they come over here across the border and send it back home?
All the terrifying repercussions of hyperinflation raise its ugly head again. The situation was so bad that the Zimbabwean government was forced to print the $100 trillion note, one of the largest denominations.
You guys see that in Zimbabwe? In Zimbabwe, A note that is $100 trillion. That's what the inflation is over there in Zimbabwe. You want to do something interesting? Go find out what your dollar can get you in these third world countries. You'll be surprised what you can do with a dollar. It usually costs us $5 to buy a couple of bootleg movies, right? Over here. When I went to Jamaica one time, I was able to buy three bootleg movies with $1 American. $1 American. You'll be surprised what you can do with $10 American over there in Jamaica. You'll be shocked.
Of currency to have ever existed.
As we look ahead to next year, I want to assure the American people that we're fully committed.
Although America has never fallen foul of hyperinflation, it has, of course, suffered great economic unrest. Most evidently during the Great Depression in 1927, and more recently during the 2007 financial crash. The Great Depression, caused by the stock market crash of 1929, shattered the dreams of individuals and eroded the very fabric of communities. It cast a dark shadow over the people of America, plunging them into a state of unparalleled despair.
If you haven't figured this out yet, do not put your faith and do not put your hope in money. It will only fail you. Put your faith and your hope in Jesus Christ. Do not put your faith and hope in money, because it's going to let you down 100% of the time.
As unemployment soared to staggering heights, once thriving factories closed down and derelict towns populated by destitute civilians became all too commonplace. Many businesses went bankrupt. Millions of people lost their jobs and their homes. The social and psychological effects were profound as families struggled to make ends meet. Thousands
of causes us to ask a question, though. If this world is getting ready to get rid of paper money, what kind of system of government are we getting ready to participate in? Can we still be a capitalistic society in the United States and have a digital currency? We'll talk about that in a future video, because I'm afraid a lot of things in this country is going to change if we ever go cashless.
Banks failed, wiping out the lifetime savings of millions of Americans and triggering a wave of foreclosures that left many people homeless. Economic recovery from the Great Depression was slow and uneven, lasting over a decade. It would take the advent of World War II and
it would take the courage of the United States government to get rid of the gold standard, to create the welfare system and the Social Security system, and all of these other systems that gave the government all of this power and all of this control over people in order for people to be able to survive here in the United States. That Great Depression was no joke. There were people on huge lines, people that used to be middle class, people that used to have all this money on these huge lines just so they can get a government cheese and they can get government milk and they can get government food. Kind of like what people are doing today.
Huge influx of military jobs to finally pull the United States out of this harrowing economic crisis. But the U.S. would again find itself in economic hell some 70 years later during the financial crash of 2007. This recession lasted for 2 years and was triggered by the collapse of the United States housing market and the subsequent widespread failure of major financial.
Now listen, I don't talk about this on YouTube a lot, but I'm still like shook about what happened when the housing bubble popped. I'm still shook about that. I'm not even going to sit here and even pretend like I'm super Christian, like nothing bothered me. Man, it was difficult to find a job during that time. It was very, very hard. Even if you just wanted to be somebody that would pick up poop with your bare hands, it was difficult to find work during this time. It was hard. Millionaires were jumping off of roofs and hanging themselves. And well, they wasn't millionaires no more. They were killing themselves because of all of the money that they lost during this particular time. It was crazy. This is why I absolutely refuse to go through another span of time where I don't got a backup plan. Like right now, for me, as far as things of value, I get things like candles, generators. I get things like I'm actually going to invest in an RV soon. I'm trying to get anything and everything I can so that if the government goes, not the government, if the economy goes again, which we all know is going to happen, when it happens again, at least I'll be somewhat prepared for it.
Financial institutions. This crisis not only affected America, but also had
Nobody
far-reaching
understands
global
what
consequences.
happened during 2007, 2008, and during this time. There's a movie that was done called Wall Street 2, Money Never Sleeps. Go watch that movie. And then that'll give you a good understanding of what really happened during that time.
Leading to a severe economic downturn, decreased global trade, and ultimately massive job losses. Could another economic crisis like this be on the horizon for the people of America?
Fast-breaking developments in the coronavirus emergency.
Give me a second here, guys, because there's another guy on here making ignorant comments in my chat. Check this out here. This is a guy named Floyd here. Floyd says more conspiracy theory nonsense, right? And Lubis says a fictional movie. Yeah, the movie was fictional. It was very fictional. It was based on the first movie called Wall Street. Floyd, since this is a conspiracy theory, Floyd, I have a question for you in the chat. Okay, since this is all conspiracy, is our country preparing to go cashless? Yes or no, Floyd? You came late to the dance, and this is what somebody like you will do before you look at all of the information before you form an opinion, Floyd. You was quick to put this comment there. Now answer the question. Are the banks in this country, is our government, did Biden sign anything into law about 2023 being the beginning of America being a cashless society? Floyd, since you're so much in the know, Floyd. It's not a conspiracy theory, and it's not conspiracy theory nonsense. I told you, I'm gonna have this come out of their own mouth. You haven't even seen the other 3 videos, and I'm gonna show you. Nothing conspiracy about it. Did you know that in Sweden, 97% of the people that are living in Sweden do not use cash? Did you know that? That 97% of the people that live in Sweden do not use cash. Are you aware of that? No, you are not. So why is it conspiracy theory stuff, Floyd? No, cash is an option, but it will not always be an option. Are you not aware of what's going on in our economy right now? I don't believe you are. Cash is an option now. It will not always be an option. Cost them more money to make the money than what the money is actually worth. Did you know that they're going to phase out the penny soon? I believe in a couple of years they're going to phase out the penny. And did you know that they have plans in place to ultimately get rid of paper money altogether? If you go to, for example, tell me how money is an option when you go to Dorney Park. When you go to Dorney Park, there are what we will call reverse, and I'm going to show people the news report about this too. There are reverse ATM machines, and you can take your cash and you can put them into these reverse ATM machines, and you will get back a debit card. I actually have one of them here. I don't know what I did with it, but they give you a prepaid debit card, and that's how you make all your purchases. Your money is worthless in Dorney Park. They won't sell you nothing with cash unless you got that card. You understand what I'm saying? It's not conspiracy theory nonsense. Why don't you actually do, Floyd, what you've been telling other people to do on here for years, and actually listen to the information first and then form your opinion? Get all of the information first, all the available facts before you come to a conclusion. Do some of that scientism, my friend. So anyway, let's get back to this. And we're gonna get to this. This video is almost over. I'm almost done with this video, and then we're gonna get to the news report on how money is becoming absolute. How money is going to be cashless soon. How are we going to go cashless?
Emergency in the U.S.
COVID cases are on the rise across the U.S., with almost every state reporting a spike in new infections.
With the financial implications of the COVID-19 pandemic still being felt, and conflicts breaking out across the globe.
A lot of people are pushing right now to get rid of paper money because people think if they touch the paper money that they're going to get sick. The people that are saying that this is conspiracy stuff clearly don't know what's being talked about in the news or whatever, and what's being talked about in our society right now.
This is a time of uncertainty for America and the world as a whole. Who knows what the future holds? Could we soon find ourselves in the grips of another recession? Or this time, could things be even worse? Money is something that we all need to survive. As individuals, we need it so we can live our lives as comfortably as possible. And as our country, we need money so that our economy remains healthy and can compete on the global market. But as our economy ebbs and flows to the rhythm of national and international events, we must remember that nothing should be taken for granted.
Now, again, that channel is called the Epic Economist. All right. And he does a really good job telling people about what the real state of our economy is. As a matter of fact, I knew about Dollar Tree becoming the $1.25 store and eventually selling $5 items on there before a lot of people did, because I was watching that particular channel. That channel was saying, look, Dollar Tree is going to make changes to the store. They want to provide better products or whatever. Basically, it wasn't a dollar store no more. It's a $1.25 store with $5 items and $3 items inside there. They're basically becoming like a Dollar General or Family Dollar, and they're doing it very slowly. You'll notice that when you go to your stores, potato chip bags are getting smaller. They're charging 50 cents, but you almost get nothing in those bags or whatever. Our dollar is not worth anywhere near what it used to be. So the people in charge of this country right now are looking to change the monetary system here in the United States. Why is this important for us Christians? Revelation chapter 13 says that in order to buy or sell, people are going to have to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. Some translations say on their right hand or on their foreheads. I choose to listen to the one about being in, because I don't want to be tricked saying, oh, we're going to put it on your hand. We're going to put it in your hand, not on your hand. You know what I mean? So you won't be able to buy or sell during that time. And when God really started taking the scales off my eyes and showed me that the Bible, that the word of God is true. When we was going through the global sickness, that's what we're going to call it, the global sickness, you couldn't go into a store unless you had this. Couldn't go shopping unless you did this. Couldn't go outside unless you had this. Couldn't conduct business unless you did this. Couldn't do anything unless you had this. You lost your job if you didn't do this. And this was global. This was global. If you're telling me that they can't come up with a system globally where they're able to control your buying and spending based on what you got on your right hand and what you got on your forehead, you're crazy. Yes, they can do that. Oh, yes, they can. Okay. Revelation chapter 13. This is why this is very important to us Christians, and why I myself am resisting an idea of going completely cashless. Anytime I can use cash, I try to use it. But I also see when I go in these stores, they try to make it sound like, well, next time just use a debit card. You'll get through the line faster. If you go to certain stores now, I remember not this past Thanksgiving, but the Thanksgiving before that, I went to a Dollar General, and nobody was even in the store. There was all cashless machines, and none of them took cash. You had to use your debit card. I was like, what the? Go to Dorney Park. They don't take any cash. You have to go to a reverse before you even get into the park. You have to go to a reverse ATM. You have to put your cash in there, and they'll give you a debit card. It is crazy. Let me show you guys something else too here, by the way. All right. There's another video I want to show you here. And this is a news report. No. Should I show you that one? Let me see. Yeah, this would be the last one for today. We're going to look at a news report about banks are closing thousands of branches and retailers are shutting. You know what? We'll look at that one next time, because I already went longer than I was supposed to. I was only supposed to go about an hour. But the point is, ladies and gents, is that not only does the government want it, but its citizens want it as well. Got a video here I want to show everybody about Sweden, because I'm not making this stuff up. You need to see it with your own two eyes about what's going on in the world right now and what they're trying to accomplish. This video you're going to watch is going to be about 55 seconds. And then I got one that's about 2 minutes I want you to see. Check this out.
Number of businesses will not even accept cash anymore.
Yeah, they are starting to set up reverse ATMs that quickly turns cash into a prepaid debit card to be used on the fly. And Dre Clark explains from New York City. Dre, I've never heard of this. Mitch has never heard of this. What's it about?
Yeah, I never heard of it either until I read about it last night. It's relatively new, but it's slowly but surely catching on. Cash is really still king, but reverse ATMs are definitely the way of the future as more businesses look for ways to go cashless. Here at Madison Square Garden in Midtown Manhattan, they already have machines inside the arena that can actually convert your cash into a debit card here. Now, here you can see exactly how it works. You load money into a kiosk like you see here, and within seconds, you can get a receipt confirming your conversion and a prepaid active card. Many of the prepaid cards are either MasterCard or Visa.
Okay, so we got another one that we want to look at. This is about 2 minutes long, but this is going to talk about what's going on over there in Sweden. Conspiracy theory, right? Check this out.
Karin Linder stocks up on supplies at the supermarket. But Karin, like most people here in Sweden, won't be paying with cash when she gets to the checkout.
I personally never use cash. As you see here, I'm shopping. I use my scanner. When I check out, I'll use my credit card, and my banking I do on my iPhone. So that's it. I don't need any cash.
And in Sweden, only around 3% of all transactions are now made with cash. The Swedes have always adapted quickly to new technology. They've been using internet banking for around 20 years, and mobile phone use is among the highest in the world.
Sweden was the first country in Europe to introduce these banknotes, but every year less of these are being printed, and it seems like Sweden is on a journey to be completely cashless. Most public transport is prepaid by using a phone or a credit card, but cash has not entirely disappeared yet.
People told us they're still using it for smaller items.
Maybe when I buy a stamp. Little things, coffee, something like that. You use cash only.
No, almost never. Only my grandmother. My grandmother, she used cash.
And big businesses are adapting their services. By October, this bank in central Stockholm will be entirely cash-free.
It's most definitely consumer-driven. We've seen for quite some time that the need for cash-based services has reduced. And if you look for 2009 to 2012, we actually reduced the number of teletransactions by 40%.
But the changes haven't been embraced by everyone.
Those aged 65 and over are actually growing in their internet use, but there are still those who are marginalised. They were brought up always having to carry cash, and for some of them it's difficult to adapt.
But Sweden's drive to be cashless marches on, and others in Europe are likely to follow.
So a lot of this, none of this is my opinion. You know what I mean? Sweden has gone this way, and there are about 7 or 8 other European countries that are trying to go completely cashless as well. And in order for the U.S. to remain relevant with a lot of these countries, they themselves are going to have to go cashless as well. The people, I think the people out there that are saying that we'll never go cashless are the people that's actually pushing the agenda personally, mainly because they tend to play stupid about what's going on in the world. While in reality, they're the ones that actually want this new system. I talked about this in the beginning of this video, that I had somebody on my YouTube channel about 8 years ago, and I was talking about, nobody in the US, because this is when I was ignorant about the topic. I said that nobody in the US, wants us to go away from the gold standard. We need to get back on the gold standard or whatever. And that person, who happened to be an atheist at that particular time, told me that they was against the gold standard and believed that the system that we have was actually better. And it's something that I think we all need to take into consideration when we're talking about this. Not everybody wants to keep using paper money. Some people want this new government system. Remember, the Bible doesn't say that he forces anybody to take the mark. He's going to cause people to want it. The monetary system, when the Antichrist is on the scene, is going to be cashless. Okay, it has to happen in order for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. And he's going to cause all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and in their forehead, and they won't be able to buy or sell unless they have that mark. I mean, I know a lot of people have seen the VeriChip videos where they're putting chips in people's hands. I don't know about their heads. I haven't seen the video where they put it in their head yet, but I've seen them put it in their hands, and all of their monies and everything is on there. All of their ID and everything is on that particular chip. Now, I'm not saying that's the mark of the beast, but I am saying that certain corporations have their employees with this particular chip in their particular body. I mean, in their body or whatever. You know what I mean? And that's where they're trying to bring everybody. And for me, again, when we're talking about prophecy, being fulfilled before our eyes. This should encourage you. If an atheist ever comes to you and tells you that there's no proof that God exists, if they ever come to you and tell you that that the Bible isn't valid, doesn't give you any truth, just remember what's going on in the world. Remember what Christ promises is going to happen in the future. Because remember, in the book of Revelation, Jesus is the one that's given this revelation to John. Remember that. And he's showing John what's going to happen in the future. And John is writing it down. And John saw this demonic system that's going to exist in these last days. And that's the system that we need to resist. All right. So, the dollar is going to die. Do not invest in it. Do not try to hold on to it or anything like that. Try to get commodities or things that you can own, assets that you can own that is going to matter later on. Things like candles, generators. Invest in things like food, seeds, and chickens and hens and things like that. Don't waste your money on trying to get interest off your money. It's just a waste of time. It's a waste of time. Get things that you know people are going to need when we go cashless. And you better get it now while you can and while you got a little bit of privacy. Because remember, when we go cashless, if you try to buy 5, let's say Tide deodorant, so you try to go to the store and you try to buy like some chickens and some hens, they can tell you, no, you're not going to buy those things because now the government knows every little tiny thing that you're doing. And this is ultimately going to backfire on the secular world because the secular world does not understand what wicked human beings will do when they get that kind of power. That same secular person will want to go to the store, and that same secular person will want to go buy cereal. They want to go buy milk. They want to go buy meat and whatever. And the government says, no, you cannot do it today. Go home. We're not going to approve this sale. Okay. That's one of the problems with everything going cashless. They're all up in your business. You have no privacy when you're doing your business at all. Okay, they can take your taxes out right then and there. You go to the store for somebody, they give you $10. Government sees about that, they take $4 out of your 10 before you even get a chance to use it for anything. All right. So again, this is all pointing to the cashless society that they're trying to implement. Let me show you guys something here real quick. Some Bible verses. This is going to be the one we're going to work with today. We're going to exegete this with Revelation 13 in the future. But for right now, in Timothy 6:10, it says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. And if you want proof of this, go look at the prosperity movement that exists in the church today. The mega churches, the Benny Hinn's, the Kenneth Copeland's, the T.D. Jakes, these what's his name, Joel Osteen. A lot of them talking about health and wealth and prosperity. They have sold out any belief in Christ for the almighty dollar. As a matter of fact, I got an image I want to show you guys that does a really good job of showing you what a lot of these mega churches are all about. You know what I mean? That's what they're all about. They're all about the almighty dollar. Look at a quote that Mike Tyson actually said regarding this too. Check this out. Mike Tyson says that if you quit your job, you're going to find out that money is more your God than anything else. And you know what? In the past, I would have argued with him. But I know 2 people on the internet. Lubis knows who these 2 people are. A lot of people know who these 2 people are. And there are other people besides them that put too much stock in money and don't put enough stock into believing in Christ and what he can actually do. It's sad, but this is just what's going on. People are putting all their faith in money and not putting no faith in God whatsoever. You know what I mean? So we need to prepare ourselves. We need to prepare our minds. We need to pray and ask God to sanctify our hearts and to get us ready for some tough times, because we're going to have to resist this system that's coming. We're going to have to resist it. The same way we had to resist the global sickness, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? So stay strong in Christ. The Bible says that faith cometh by hearing, and hearing the word of God. We need to stay in his word. We need to be reminded about this constantly so that when the system comes, we're not shocked and surprised by it. We were prepared for it. We were prepared for it. If you get your things now, you don't have to worry about not having things in the future. Learn how to get off of this government dependency and learn how to take care of yourself. Okay. You want to hear something embarrassing? Ask how many Christians out there know how to make their own fire out of rocks. Do you know how to survive in the woods? If you had to live in the woods and you had nothing, if you was given a tent and you was given some rocks and you was given, like, you know, a fishing rod and a spear, could you take care of yourself? Do you trust God that much? Let's get close to God now. Let us learn how to lean on him and not on our own understanding. And let us learn how to be self-sufficient and not be dependent on the government. Because when you make yourself dependent on the government, it becomes a god. So you got to be careful with that, okay? I'm going to do another video on this topic again, guys, but I'm not going to be just talking about this in a casual way. I actually want to go into the Bible and talk about two things in my next video. I want to talk about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, particularly the one that is going to cause all of the food prices to go up, where the Bible predicts hyperinflation, okay? To the point that it's going to take your whole paycheck to get a loaf of bread. Your entire paycheck. And again, some people are like, well, gee, man, that will never happen. This is going to happen on a global scale. I assure you, it's going to happen on a global scale. There are already poorer countries that got to take their whole paycheck just to get a little bit of subsistence. This will happen here in the United States. You mark my words. All right. Then we're going to exegete that with what it says in Revelation 13. Think about this a minute. Can you imagine a world, just give you a little hint, a little bit of a taste of what we're going to be talking about, where food is so expensive that if you work for a whole week, you don't got enough money to buy any food, or you have to work a whole day just to get a loaf of bread, just to get a loaf of bread. Just to get a loaf of bread. Think about that a minute. And now the government's saying, hey, if you receive this in your right hand or you receive it in your forehead, you're going to eat, and you're going to eat like you did before all of this stuff happened. How many of those so-called believers you think are going to take the mark? Think about that. That's going to be your homework. Because when this stomach growls, you'll be surprised what people are willing to do. You know what I mean? So with that being said, let's pray that never happens. I give God thanks for all of you that are watching right now. We'll be back for the next one. Hopefully this weekend we'll get into the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I want to talk about hyperinflation a little bit more, and I want to talk about what is coming to the United States and what is coming worldwide as far as like the scarcity of food. Get used to that phrase, because food is going to become scarce and hard to get. And that's going to be your new money. And we'll talk about that in the future. Till next time, guys, it's been another edition of Preaching to the Choir Ministries, telling you guys to read your Bible and do what it says. Again, next time we get back on here, we're going to talk about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and we're going to be talking about Revelation 13. All right. God bless. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Preaching to the Choir Ministries. And today, I want to